The December 15th, 2025 legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silent. Ms. Fiedler will lead us in the invocation Pledge of Allegiance, but first Ms. Rodvian is going to speak.
I just wanted to take a moment for all of us to give a moment of reflection for all of the devastating events that happened in our nation and around the world this past weekend. And we know that the list of the most immediate things that made the headlines is only the tip of the iceberg, that there are tragedies going on. And as we move into the holiday season, I hope we can lift up those folks that are suffering in our thoughts and prayers. So I'd like to take a moment of silence. Thank you.
You'll join me by standing. Please pray in a manner consistent with your faith as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. Lord, thank you for the joy that fills this season. As this year draws to a close, help us reflect on the lessons, blessings, and challenges we have encountered. Help us to be patient with one another in our deliberations and listen with understanding as we continue to carry on our work. Remind us that you are the source of true joy, and may we carry this joy not only tonight, but into the coming year. Bless this body and all the citizens of Anne Arundel County. In Jesus' name, amen. Now the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me turn my mic on. Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
Before we open our discussions and public hearings, I would like to remind everyone in attendance, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 3 pieces which were shared with the Council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts using our online testimony tool. We have one person signed up to speak, Kyle Nimhard. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda? You may come up at this time. All right. Mr. Nimhard.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. In the spirit of the season, I'm going to forgo my regularly scheduled program for the most part. But in the spirit of the season, I'm reminded of a moment in history that has touched my heart. On Christmas Eve of 1944, a small group of lost American soldiers stumbled upon a remote cabin occupied by a German woman and her son. Shortly after a German patrol arrived, the German woman was able to disarm both groups, declaring, "There will be no shooting here." They all ended up sharing a meal together and then departed peacefully in their respective directions. It highlights the goodness of the human spirit. Regardless of the issue, there's more that binds us than divides us. Now, I'm by no means implying that me or my fellow neighbors are at war with the County Council. That's not the point of that story. And I'm sure by now you're familiar with the shortcomings that I've attempted to convey to the County Council regarding Bill 1924. It's my only plug, I promise. But I have had the pleasant opportunity to speak with some of you one-on-one however briefly. And for those that I haven't, I honestly look forward to doing so at some point. But I just wanted to take the time during this meeting to say that I appreciate your dedication to public service by serving your constituents. And I also know that if you all were in the position that me and my neighbors were in, you'd be doing the exact same thing because you're all good people. And I truly, honestly believe that. So, like I said in my earlier remarks, those German and American soldiers, they could have allowed their ideologies, marching orders, or rhetoric to dictate their actions, but they allowed their humanity to prevail. Like those soldiers in 1944, I urge you to put aside political ideology and general rhetoric and focus on the substance of sustainable development by working with our County Councilman Nathan Volke to develop legislative solutions through the smallest of tweaks to prevent exploitation of a well-intentioned law by private developers. So thank you all. Hope you have a safe and happy holiday season, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Nembhard. Mr. Svensson.
Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. Last week, I attended a pre-submittal meeting on a redevelopment proposal to build 135 townhomes at the current location of the Severna Park Golf Center on Route 2. Most everyone at this standing room only meeting was opposed. What really struck me, though, about most of these educated, experienced, and generally well-informed residents was their lack of knowledge about county laws and procedures governing the local control and management of the development process. Admittedly, this is not an easy subject to master, and the lack of clarity and ever-changing rules and procedures makes it hard to understand. For instance, I've come to realize that a zoning classification of, say, R5 does not really have much to do with what can be developed on such a parcel. On the one hand, I recall during the public hearings on the various rezoning bills, a certain council member dismissing the concerns of some residents about neighboring properties being upzoned from R1 to R5 because, due to other requirements and restrictions, there was no practical way such a parcel would come close to having 5 units per acre approved. On the other hand, most people at last week's meeting were dismayed to learn the new Housing Attainability Act provides a density bonus, allowing developers to build 150% more units than the zoning classification indicates. For example, a 4-acre R5 parcel is now allowed to build not 20 units, but 30 units. The primary concern expressed was over the current state of traffic congestion and current lack of safety on Route 2 and other roadways in the area. The added stress upon this current reality is what makes this increased density redevelopment proposal so mind-boggling to most in the area. Please do not categorize us as elitists or racists for this concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson. Mr. Minahan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Council. Matt Minahan, Edgewater, on behalf of the Growth Action Network. We strongly believe, as you've heard us say before, that much more sunlight is needed on land use and text amendment matters to the benefit of all in Anne Arundel County, including, we believe, the council. The problem seems like the system is built to keep citizens in the dark and at the same time from being able to influence legislation. The system seems built to make the council use 7 hardworking citizen legislators, most of whom have day jobs, the final experts on the fiscal, environmental, and quality of life matters far beyond your actual expertise. We have advocated for the council to authorize a charter amendment creating a planning commission, which would require each land use bill and text amendment to be reviewed for its impact on the fiscal, environmental, and quality of life impacts on the community and open public comment. Just more sunshine. The solution, maybe it's not a planning commission, maybe it's rechartering the planning advisory board. Could be that too. We lean toward a planning commission because the PAB already has quite a burdensome schedule and its chair is reluctant. In either case, we believe both bodies can answer this question to bring more sunlight to the process of land use legislation and text amendment changes. We challenge the council to let sunlight into the legislative process, create a planning commission or recharter the PAB, allow for more expert testimony and more citizen input prior to the start of the 95-day legislative clock, to stagger the terms of commission members, and to join Howard, Baltimore, Montgomery, and PG counties in holding hybrid council meetings. Thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. Okay, the invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? Okay, may I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of the legislative session of December 1st, 2025.
The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:04 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Ms. Hummer and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative session of December 1st, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes of the legislative session of December 1st, 2025 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 9725, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Veterans Affairs Commission. Bill number 9825, an ordinance concerning public works, traffic, zoning, signs. Bill number 9925, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, agricultural land preservation, disclosure of right to farm. Bill number 125, an ordinance concerning purchasing, procurement, project labor agreements. And Bill number 125, an ordinance concerning general provisions, public works, landlord-tenant eviction.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of the resolutions to be introduced this evening.
Resolution number 3725, resolution amending portions of Title II of the Rules of Procedure of the County Council.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8125 as amended.
Bill number 8125, an ordinance concerning subdivision or development, adequate public facilities, adequate transportation facilities, mitigation, fees and securities, development impact fee credits.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Land Use, Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney, Sarah Fowler, our Planning Administration and Transportation Development Manager from the Office of Planning and Zoning, David Braun, our Engineering Administrator from the Department of Public Works, and Brian Ulrich, our Planning Administrator from the Office of Transportation. Bill 8125, as amended, updates and modifies our traffic APF tests, adjusts fees for transportation and bicycle pedestrian transportation fees, and makes some changes to the impact fee credit. And I will turn it over to Mr. Evelyn for some final comments.
Good evening, everyone. Members of the County Council, members of the public. I just want to first start off by saying thank you for your continued engagement around this. While I'm looking at Councilwoman Volke, I want to say your questions, all of your questions, help strengthen this complex legislation, and obviously it's a demonstration of good governance to the public. Bill 8125 as amended updates the county's transportation adequate public facilities standards to reflect modern mobility. It preserves growth management while modernizing how transportation impacts are evaluated and mitigated. The bill restores and strengthens bike, pedestrian, and transit requirements, improves mitigation for constrained capacity, and provides clear standards for all of our stakeholders. As amended, it still aligns transportation decisions with our land use plans like Plan 2040, climate goals, and infrastructure investments. As you've heard for so many days, this bill replaces an outdated, auto-focused metric with a balanced, accountable approach that reflects real-world travel behavior and ensures that new development will contribute to its fair share. Tonight's vote is whether we continue with outdated tools or move forward, move a little bit closer with clear, fair framework for the county's future. Bill 8125, I would posit to you, as amended, achieves this, and this is an important first step. So I would respectfully urge a favorable vote. Thank you.
All right, is there any discussion from the council? Okay, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 8125 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have one person signed up ahead of time, Lucy Davis. If there anyone else who wishes to speak on Bill number 8125, you may come up at this time as well. Nope, I don't think so. All right, Mr. Corrin, we'll let you start us off.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. You know I've got a lot personally invested in this on behalf of the entire county. This bill ended up a long ways from where it started. It's a watered-down version of its original objectives, but it does move the needle in the right direction on 6 important factors. And I venture to guess each of you are on board with at least 3 of these 6 factors. Traffic reduction, affordable living, because it reduces the cost of transportation, environmental protection, population health, equitable transportation options, and economic vitality. Doesn't move the needle as far as I would like, but it does move the needle in the right direction, and I urge your support. Some of you, I hope, will say yes in spite of it not going far enough. And some of you, I hope, will say yes because it didn't go too far in your eyes. So I urge a yes. I would love to see unanimity here, but I'll take 4 or more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corrin.
I'll just add, I do want to thank the staff and the administration for all the work. I wish we were getting a better payoff on that 5 years of work. I am committed to meeting with that group again and doing a lessons learned session, and I would love to have somebody from the council participate in that so we can improve the process going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Corrin.
Now I'll really stop.
Mr. Svensson.
Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. My testimony tonight is going to highlight just one of the flaws of this bill, and that is that it unnecessarily pits the advancement of 2 good things against one another. It robs from Peter to pay Paul by incentivizing multimodal improvements through the reduction of funds to mitigate traffic congestion through road capacity improvements. Must we pit multimodal improvements against road capacity improvements? Please say no. The same flaw plagued Bill 7224. Adorning it with a nice name, the Housing Attainability Act, didn't make this flaw go away. This new law incentivizes the construction of moderately priced dwelling units, a good thing, through the reduction of funds to mitigate traffic congestion with road capacity improvements. Again, must we pit affordable housing against road capacity improvements? Again, please say no. Deputy CAO Jansen Evelyn recently spoke about development and traffic at the Growth Action Network's annual meeting. He highlighted the extraordinary population growth in the 40-year period of 70 through 2010 and emphasized that when people say the roads can't handle all these new houses, I always reframe it as we are not feeling the impacts of today's development plans. This took 40 years to get here. No single administration is going to fix 40 years of underfunding, unquote. He failed to acknowledge, however, the fact that Bill 8125, Bill 7224, and the absence of legislation to update impact fees worsens that underfunding. Doesn't fix it at all. A vote for this bill is a vote to reduce funding for road capacity improvements to mitigate traffic congestion. You should be held accountable for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Mr. Minahan.
Matt Minahan, Edgewater, Maryland, on behalf of the Growth Action Network. We see Bill 8125 as an unfortunate and classic reversion to the mean in public policy. This bill took dozens of citizens and civil servants over 5 years to finish. They started with ambitious goals for adding bike, pedestrian, and transit to reduce automobile traffic and increase transportation options and choice. We believe the bill should have retained its fee indexing provision. By setting a static fee, as had been done in 2017, the county ensures that fees will fall behind actual costs by the time the ink is dry on the county executive signature. This bill and all such bills should be indexed for inflation so that it doesn't take another 10 years of falling behind to bring the bill back on the agenda. We respect and sympathize with the workload of the OPZ Transportation Engineering Department, but we believe that producing a comprehensive update only every third year is terribly insufficient. These studies need to be updated every year so that adjustments can be made both to policy and practice. And finally, this bill grants to the planning officer, as do several bills recently passed by the council, approval authority that we gladly entrust to the current staff of OPZ. We're concerned about future administrations and what might be done with that unchecked authority. We see this bill as a shadow of its former self. We regret to see what it has lost, and we encourage you to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. Okay, the public hearing on Bill number 8125 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8125 as amended.
Bill number 8125, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, adequate public facilities, adequate transportation facilities, mitigation, fees and securities, public impact fee credits.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for confirmation on the record, this legislation does not get reviewed on state roads.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The traffic APFO is not utilized by the state on state roads. They have their own review process.
The state has their own review process, but we do review state roads as part of our APF as well.
But in the development process, the state does see and sign off on under their own requirements for traffic improvements or roadway improvements.
Yes, they look at it as part of their access permit process.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This late afternoon, early evening, I was doing my final review of the legislation reading through, and I came upon a section that kind of struck me for the first time, where currently in code, an agreement with the Board of Education to construct school facilities or for the donation of land for a school site must comply with state law and be approved by the resolution introduced by the county executive and adopted by the county council. And this is under mitigation. That's current code, but this bill looks like it's amending out, so it's that requirement for a resolution by the council. Is there a rationale for taking away some of the council's authority in those circumstances? Or if I'm misunderstanding something, please enlighten me. It's on page 17, if that helps. Specifically line 5 on page 17, but the section that's getting amended out starts on page 16, line 18.
Member. Paragraph C, thank you for that. On the school capacity mitigation agreement,
Perfect.
it seems that that same language was also then reinserted there.
Okay. This is why I asked, because this is a big bill and it's easy to,
Yeah, under the paragraph that's styled school capacity mitigation
Yep.
agreement. So,
I'm reading it. I don't have any other questions. Well, I see in the new language, Madam Chair, may I continue? Sorry. It says shall be approved by the planning and zoning officer. It doesn't mention anything about the council. Maybe I'm reading too quickly.
so the original, seems the original language also said plan and zoning officer. So give me a second as I review your question.
Okay, thank you.
You're like, let me answer the most technical question possible.
Well, I thought maybe there was if there was a rationale behind the decision. That's what I was curious. I didn't.
If there's staff
Didn't mean
that
to-
can answer this off the top, please jump in.
The intent was just to break up traffic in school, because otherwise it was one long run-on paragraph. So they're looking at the details. But that was the intent, was just to break them apart, not to rewrite anything with the schools.
I think the way I'm reading it, I'm still seeing where the old language has a resolution coming before the council, but the new language does not. And again, if it's somewhere else, please, this is a very, very large bill.
So I think I can hop in with the answer real quick. So the provision, so it's saying an agreement for the donation of land for a school site must comply with applicable state law and be approved by resolution introduced by the county executive and adopted by the county council. So I think that is probably, there's actually a bill that we'll be hearing tonight regarding that, but when the county accepts a donation of land, it has to be approved by resolution and approved by the county
So it's
council.
being taken care of in a
I
separate piece of
believe so.
legislation.
I'll
Okay.
double check with the Office of Law, but I believe that's the case. Anytime we accept a gift of land, it has to be put forward by ordinance or resolution by the executive and adopted by the council.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. I don't know if this is out of order, but which bill are you referring to?
So there's a bill we have later on the agenda tonight to accept a gift of a partial donation of land for Glebe Heights. So I'm just using that as an example, saying when we accept a donation of land as the county, it has to go through council approval.
Follow up, Madam Chair? But that particular piece of property is not being utilized by the Board of Education, correct? The later bill for this evening.
Correct, but I'm saying, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are accepting land for the Board of Education, if we're accepting it on behalf of the board, but the county's accepting it, then it has to go through the donation process through legislation.
I completely understand that. However, this bill does remove the language that specifically says that the county council has voting authority on this very specific type of property being donated to the Board of Education. If we remove that, it could be that down the road, someone says, oh, no, we only approve land for the county department uses. Board of Education is separate. We've always treated, for the most part, Board of Education as a state agency. We are the funding mechanism. So I appreciate Ms. Ledbetter pointing that out. Gives me some pause here.
No, that was me. That's mine. My laptop died, and I got to do everything on my phone, and it keeps flipping. Y'all think everyone double checking this still? Okay.
I've never noticed that, and the one person that would know the answer is on vacation, Greg Swain. So I'm just give me a moment. And again, if anyone else from the work group that can opine as to if this change is if this is not captured subsequently in the legislation, please let me know. As I didn't even bring down my package, so I'm looking at it online right now.
Ms. Pickard.
Would Ms. Kenny like to comment as a representative from the Office of Law?
Kelly Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. I am looking at the bill as we're all sitting here too, since, as you know, I was not involved in the drafting, so I don't know what the intent was when that was taken out, if that was on purpose or not. I'd have to pull up the gift provisions in the code as well to answer that question for sure. I don't want to answer that question without looking at those code provisions. I can go step back and pull those up.
Ms. Beach? No? Okay. May I suggest that we move this to later in the agenda to give everyone time to research and be able to answer this, and we will come back to it?
That's fine.
Rather than everybody
Yep.
scrambling while they're there, we might be able to get a clearer answer if we just put it on hold. Ms.
Do we need a
Rockin?
motion to do that?
Do we need a motion?
I move that we reorder our bills for this evening and put Bill 81-25 as the last of the bills to be heard tonight.
If it does help, I do have the code provision right here. I probably could answer the question, then we don't have
I
to do
withdraw
that.
my motion.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. The one time I didn't bring my iPad up here with the code provisions, Kelly County Supervising County Attorney, it's 83101 of the county code that requires all gifts of real property to the county to be approved by the county council by ordinance. So that would likely probably be the reason why that was taken out of this code. There may have been a thought process that was already covered by that provision in the code.
So not including, even though we don't have that exact language in this code, it's the code you just cited still upholds.
If it's a
that
gift of
holds
property
that,
to
that
the
provision. There's
council.
nothing that would negate that provision you just read.
Right.
Okay.
For a gift to the county, yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ledbetter.
I just want to make sure so that's for donation to the county. And maybe I'm not reading this properly, but when I read the old language that's being removed, it sounds like the old language could also apply to land being donated to the Board of Education.
That is right, and that's why I did indicate if it's a gift to the county, it would go before the council. The Board of Ed is not covered in that provision, so there is a slight difference between what's in the existing code.
But isn't all land that is donated to the Board of Education, it goes to the county, and then we release it we give it back to the Board of Ed when they want to use it, but it becomes county land when it's donated to the Board of Education? Because whenever we do something for a new school or for anything that comes up, we have to do a provision to transfer it from the county to the Board of Education.
If I may, David Braun with the Department of Public Works. The last two that have been done with donations for the school board have gone to the county first, yes. That one has gone through council in order to meet that requirement.
Okay. Ms. Fiedler.
not to beat a dead horse, but those two donations happened while existing code that this bill is amending out was in place.
They weren't for school mitigation, though, which is the section that this is under. They were just donations to the county to be used by the school board.
But for a donation to the Board of Education. I'm hearing probably maybe this is where it would be covered. I'm not hearing a confident, if we take this out, there will never be a question down the road if there is land donated to the Board of Education.
What I would say is, as Ms. Hummer pointed out, land in the way the process and the code is functioning now, land cannot be dedicated or donated to the Board of Education without going through the county first. And so the requirement to have the county accept a donation that goes eventually to the Board of Education has to come here first.
So no one can donate straight to the Board of Education. It has to come through us.
My understanding,
to
yes.
get it. Ms. Pickard.
And that is in section 8 something, title something, you Ms. Kenny, you read a
Yes.
different section that it's not
8.3.
brought to bear in this bill. It is in another part of the code, is that what I'm understanding? So it doesn't,
83101, yes.
so removing it from the section of code that this bill is amending, it remains in another part of the code.
Yes, for the gifts of real property. I will, yes, those are for gifts of real property. I will add that when gifts are made, no, for all gifts, they go to the county council. That's right. 83101B. If it's a gift.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8125 as amended. Oh, wait a minute. What? What? Oh. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 8125 as amended.
Ms. Fiedler,
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian,
As one of the folks that will vote aye because I'd like to see it, even though I'd like to see it go further, aye.
Ms. Ledbetter,
Nay.
Mr. Smith,
So I didn't hear a lot of confidence in the responses here on the short stint. I think the meriting intent is still is what I'm after, so I'll say aye.
Ms. Pickard,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Nay.
and Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Bill number 8125 as amended has passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Resolution number 3425.
Resolution number 3425, resolution approving the use of funds from Advanced Land Acquisition Capital Project for the purchase of real properties in Edgewater, Maryland from Glebe Bay LLP and Artabella Fox and in Harmons, Maryland from Craig A. Mercer.
Okay. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Kyle Rofa, our executive director of facilities for the Board of Education, Eric Michelson from the Department of Public Works, Chris Trumbauer, our budget officer, and Chris Daniels, our real estate manager. Resolution 3425 would approve the terms and conditions for the purchase of 2 properties on behalf of the county. One is Glebe Heights, and the other is the Shipley property in Harmons for use of the bus facility by the Board of Education. As was discussed at the work session on last Tuesday, we are still waiting on the Phase 2 environmental assessment to come back on the Shipley's property. The owners did agree very late last week to extend the dates for us to do our due diligence. I believe that date has been extended to January 11th. The date for the closing deadline has also been pushed to give us time to complete the Phase 2 environmental study and do our due diligence following those results. So with that said, we're happy to answer any questions, but we would also ask that this resolution be held until the January 5th meeting, by which time we expect to have the Phase 2 environmental site assessment complete.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Volkey?
Thank you. How confident are you that you'll have the Phase 2 study results back by the next meeting?
Very, very confident.
Okay. All right. And I don't say this to be mean, but there was confidence that we were going to have the results on Friday. We didn't have the results on Friday. I do appreciate that your folks in your office, in your department, reached out to share with me, we're not going to have them, and explained why. And I get that, but that was our thought before. So I guess what's our basis for our confidence?
I spoke with the person who's doing the environmental report. He told me that the results were at the lab.
Perfect.
About probably about a week to 10 days ago.
Okay.
And he's the one who's told me when he thinks the Phase 2 will be in.
Okay, and we think it'll be in by when?
No later than December 22nd.
Okay, all right. And then we'll get copies of that, right?
Yes.
Many thanks.
All right. As a reminder, we held the public hearing on December 1st and motioned to hold the vote until this evening, and so there will not be a public hearing on this resolution tonight. Mr. Hunt has asked for a motion to hold resolution number 3425 until January 5th. Do I have a motion, someone to make that motion? I guess I can can I make the motion? Then I make the, what?
Second, you can. Yeah.
Okay, a second. All right. So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold the vote on resolution number 3425 until January 5th, 2025. Mr. Smith, did you have? Nope, just checking. Okay. Please call the roll.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold resolution number 3425 until January 5th has passed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8925.
Bill number 8925, an ordinance concerning current expense budget, fund transfer, and supplementary appropriations, video lottery impact aid, South River Heights Special Community Benefit District, capital budget and program, advanced land acquisition capital project.
All right, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Chris Trumbauer, our budget officer. This bill was heard at the previous council meeting and was held at that time. It transfers $96,100 from the Video Lottery Local Impact Aid Fund Public Libraries to Video Lottery Local Impact Aid Fund County Executive VLT Community Grants. It makes a supplementary appropriation to the South River Heights Special Community Benefits District in the amount of $38,075 and transfers $1.1 million from the CAO Contingency Fund to the Office of Finance Non-Departmental Pay-As-You-Go. We would ask that the council pass this bill tonight. I understand that the South River Heights community folks are very anxious to get their community funds, and if there are any other questions, we're happy to answer them. But as was discussed at the work session, that $1.1 million would be transferred to finance non-departmental under this bill, but it would not be spent on anything else, and would remain there until either the property acquisition is approved or it is reappropriated by the council.
So is there any discussion? Mr. Volkey.
First, I want to say hi to Ms. Nieder, who's here.
Oh,
Not Ms. Kenny. All right, got it. All right, so hello. Second question, Mr. Trumbauer. So if we put the money into the Advanced Land Acquisition Fund, well, no, take that back. If we put it into the Office of Finance, PAYGO, 1.1 million, we can't bring it back unless you all bring it back, right? So like we're putting the money in that fund, and I hear you saying we can't spend it on the land unless we approve that by separate ordinance, which is in front of us, which we'll deal with separate, or resolution, excuse me. But we can't make you bring that money back, right?
Chris from our budget officer. I mean, make us, you could ask us and we'd certainly be willing to do that. But as I explained at the work session, and I understand that not everyone was able to attend, but we were...
Wow, man. Wow.
But it's
Right
it's a two-step process where this bill puts the funding in finance non-departmental. The second step, that's the vehicle to get it over to the capital budget. We will not move it to the capital budget, so it's parked in finance non-departmental. For all intents and purposes, sitting the same way it would be in the contingency fund.
I got you. It's cash. Just
Right. So there's two likely scenarios, right? Number one, we get the environmental assessment back, you all deliberate. If we end up acquiring the property, then that will trigger step two. We will move this over to advanced land in the capital budget and we will acquire the property. If for any reason that does not end up happening, then that money will remain in finance non-departmental. My presumption is, especially given what happened over the weekend, probably use it for snow in the future. And so it would then be part of a future appropriation bill. There would be 1.1 million that could go to snow that wouldn't have to come out of the CAO contingency fund. But if the council had some desire to do something else with that 1.1 million, you know my number. You're welcome to engage the administration in a discussion on what you think would be best. But those, as I see it, are the two most likely scenarios. But I can tell you on the record, we will not put that in the capital budget unless and until you all approve the resolution that you just heard.
Thank you.
All right. Just as a reminder, we held the public hearing on December 1st and motioned to hold the vote until this evening, and so there will be no public hearing on this bill tonight. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on bill number 8925.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 8925 has passed.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 9025.
Bill number 9025, an ordinance concerning purchasing acquisition of real property by gift.
Okay. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Chris Daniels, our real estate manager from the Office of Central Services, and Christine Nieder, our senior assistant county attorney from the Office of Law. So Bill 9025 is also related to the property acquisition, as was mentioned at the work session in the previous hearing on the bill. Resolution 3425. The other property that the county is looking to acquire is a 68.27 acre parcel in Edgewater from Glebe Bay LLP to be used for the expansion of the adjacent park. Because we are getting this piece of property for less than the assessed value, about $960,000 less, give or take, that constitutes a gift, a partial gift from the seller to the county. And under the county code, section 83101, gifts of real property have to come to the county council for approval. So that is what this bill does. It approves that partial gift acceptance.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologies for tapping my microphone. Just out of curiosity, because the Glebe property is tied up in the same resolution as the Shipley property, if, heaven forbid, the Shipley property doesn't work out for whatever reason after the county's due diligence, the soil samples aren't sufficient, whatever that might be, and then in order to purchase the Glebe property, obviously there would need to be a new resolution. So my question is there a timeline where if we passing this gift ordinance now, do we have to close by a certain date for it to be valid in case there is some sort of delay? Just how would that work?
Chris Daniels, real estate manager. We are also updating or amending this contract. The original scheduled closing date was the end of December this year. We are going to push the new closing date out to mirror Shipley's, which will be January 26, 2026.
So there's no concern, though, about a delay, a delay in that resolution making this ordinance for the gift. We wouldn't have to do this again, or it wouldn't expire.
I don't think we have any concern with meeting our deadline.
Just making sure. Thank you.
All right, we will now open the public hearing on bill number 9025. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 9025? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 9025 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9025.
Bill number 9025, an ordinance concerning purchasing, acquisition of real property by gift.
Okay, any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 9025.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 9025 has passed.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9125.
Bill number 9125, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, real property taxes, clean energy loan program.
All right, Ms. Rodvian, this is your bill.
Thank you. So we talked about this bill at the work session, and we got some of the things straightened out. We have an amendment that will basically fix fix some of the concerns that we had in the draft as it was introduced. But basically, just a quick overview of the bill. It is a bill that allows private lenders to give loans for energy projects, environmental projects, to commercial entities or residential. Now, this is an addition, adding residential, and there's definitely a need and a lot that could benefit from that. And maybe you'll hear more from folks at the table on that topic. We've adjusted so instead of having any maximum for the amount of loan, they simply will have a minimum. And the amendment that we're bringing tonight will have a minimum of $15,000 for residential projects and $50,000 for commercial projects. Basically, the benefit of this is it allows the lender to have a very sure way that the loan is collected, and provides a path for folks that are interested in doing environmental or energy friendly work to their property, a relatively straightforward path to do that. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and hopefully we'll get everybody's support on the amendments and then have a vote next time.
Okay. All right, any discussion? We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 91. Oh, open administration, I'm sorry. Do you want to say something first?
Oh, just very briefly, thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration, Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Brian Schenk, our financial services manager from the Office of Finance, and Matt Fleming, the executive director of the Resilience Authority of Anne Arundel County and Annapolis. We're supportive of this and the amendment, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right. Now we will open the public hearing on Bill number 9125. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 9125? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 9125 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9125.
Bill number 9125, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, real property taxes, clean energy loan program.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment provides for loan minimums on residential and commercial properties.
Okay, Ms. Rodvian, this is your amendment.
Thank you. And as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, this basically just sets minimum loan amounts, mainly because for amounts lower than these, there are easier funding mechanisms that are in place. A lot of the vendors themselves, or I guess service providers themselves, have financing that they can offer for smaller amounts. So this can open up a path when larger amounts are needed. And so, as I mentioned, the minimum for a residential property would be $15,000, and for a commercial property, $50,000. So 150,000 for residential and 50,000 for commercial properties. And I move the amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second, Allison Pickard.
Okay. Administration?
Supportive of this amendment.
Okay. So do I have any discussion on this amendment? I have a question. to finance or to the Office of the Budget, whoever answers this correctly. Is 15,000 too low, do you think, for a minimum for residential, or is that just about right?
Brian Shank, Financial Services Manager. 15,000 is about accurate. When I went back and looked into the history for solar energy credits and geothermal, which are the larger programs for residentials, based off of the stratification, 15,000 was about the minimum threshold we saw for some of those projects. Most of the projects are much larger than that, typically 25 to 30,000 for solar, 40 to 60 for geothermal, and certainly they get much more expensive. So
Okay.
15 is probably the bare minimum you could do for a relatively modest system.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Okay. Bill number 9125 as amended will be heard on January 5th, 2026. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 9225.
Bill number 9225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, cottage home development.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak on this bill. Essentially, we've been looking at different options for affordable and moderately priced housing for a number of years here in Anne Arundel County. We've passed a number of different policies that impact that as well. For me, this was one different, unique asset or sort of inventory that does not exist here in Anne Arundel County. I had a citizen a few years ago. We were sitting down, and we actually went online and we started to search for, are there any houses in Anne Arundel County that are under, $250,000? And that drove the discussion on affordability in the county. And when you look at the types of houses that are for sale, we were kind of dismayed to see that it was very limited here in this jurisdiction. And so that led us to looking at different options, as well as speaking to a couple of churches who at the time were interested in putting housing on their church property, which is a whole nother conversation that we'll certainly hear about in the future. But this led us down this path where cottage homes have become a norm in some jurisdictions around the country. And I think it's something that will enable us to create a pathway for home ownership to citizens who are looking for a simplistic way of living where they don't need a significant amount of bells and whistles, but just the functioning piece of a house, making sure that they can come home to something that's affordable. This bill, I'm proud of. It's going to be modified and hopefully amended today, and we'll sit down with some other council members who are interested in discussing some other provisions as well. And so I welcome that discussion. But in short, this is just another sort of tool that we're going to put on the shelf that allows us and communities of interest out there to develop these types of communities that will be affordable and allow for folks to purchase these things. Because I think that was also a rumor out there. This is for purchase. We do not want these to be short-term rentals, and you see that in the legislation. Our goal is to ensure that it's created in neighborhoods that have water and sewer that are connected with it, and we will work on sort of about where they're going over the next couple of weeks. But this is the attempt to literally carve and create a provision of housing that will open up doors of opportunities for folks who are not in a six-figure range as far as salary, for those who are more moderate in their income, where they can actually too be a homeowner, because that's what we're driving and steering this towards. So. Other than that, we've been speaking about this over the last year. It was a previous bill. It has come back in a different form, and I am encouraged and hopeful that our council colleagues can find a way to support it. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Lynn Miller, our assistant planning and zoning officer, Aaron Karpowitz, the Chief Executive Officer for Arundel Community Development Services, Chris Murphy, our Engineering Administrator from the Department of Public Works, and Andrew McCara, our Assistant Director for Plan Review and Inspections in the Department of Inspections and Permits. I appreciate the dialogue that we've had on this bill. The administration is supportive of expanding our housing choices and housing opportunities and ensuring greater affordability to meet the needs of our residents of all ages and occupations who are searching for housing. We're happy to answer any questions and discuss the amendment at the appropriate time.
Okay. Is there any discussion at the moment. All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9225. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received 5 pieces which are shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have 4 people who signed up ahead of time: Lori Cook, Linda Hannafin-Bonner, Martin Mitchell, and Stephen Waddy. And if there's anyone else who'd like to speak, you may also come up at this time. Dr. Bonner, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Linda Hannafin-Bonner, Annapolis, Maryland. I want to first thank Councilman Smith for introducing this bill and for working with the Attainable Housing team over the past months, and particularly for integrating and changing from tiny homes to cottage homes, which we believe, since our research has shown, has been a much more palatable and exciting opportunity for smaller and affordable housing. We also want to thank council members Hummer and Rodvian and Pickard for supporting this work and this legislation. We actually have 3 small recommendations to add to this bill, and I'm glad to see that there is an amendment with respect to the square footage. We would like to just change the terminology of minimum of square footage, or excuse me, maximum square footage, to a minimum. Let's allow for a little bit more flexibility. I think we can get a greater diversity of housing stock between 700 and 1,100 square feet that would help satisfy the needs of different spectrums of the housing group. We also want to encourage that the review process for this bill, for this type of legislation, be a consolidated process to a 9-month period. The county planning office needs to begin working a little more expeditiously, particularly for affordable housing units. And so we would really encourage that an amendment being included, that the 9-month review process be adopted for this particular housing. We also would like to encourage the use of this as a senior housing in the place of ADUs or as an alternative to ADUs. We know that there are many congregations who are interested in this. And thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Mr. Minahan.
Good evening, Matt Minahan, Edgewater, Maryland, on behalf of the Growth Action Network. First of all, thanks to the sponsor. It's been very helpful to speak with you and work with you on this. We're excited about the concept of the cottage homes bill. There's a serious need for housing at these price points in the county, and we'd only like to see more in these targeted areas. Our previous bills have targeted families with 100% of AMI, which is definitely in the sweet spot for many of our essential workers, but this bill's 80% addresses another really important segment. We support the condominium-type governance in this bill, as well as the requirement that there be an HOA which owns and maintains the grounds. We support the sale-resale provision. We support insisting that these be individually owned and not snatched up by the dozens by investors. We're excited about the possibilities of wealth accumulation that this bill provides. However, we have concerns about increasing density by tenfold in R1 communities that largely are not centered around employment and transit. It would be quite a shock to have an infill lot in the middle of or far end of a neighborhood without the open area or rec area or transit suddenly sprouting 10 cottage homes. We agree with the concerns expressed at last week's work session about targeting these developments to areas that can sustain and support the increased density, areas already outlined in Plan 2040 and the supporting region plans. Peninsulas, rural areas are not built for this kind of density, but redevelopment is exactly where there is already water, sewer, transit, employment, and existing impervious surface. We hope you all will support the bill and not mangle it to within an inch of his life, as happened previously to the Transportation APF bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. Yes, sir.
Greetings, Chair and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Councilman Martin Mitchell. I'm a former municipal council member and a longtime advocate for equitable housing, strong and connected communities. I'm here to strongly support Bill 9225. This is actually, something that we're considering in Prince George's because this legislation does more than expand housing. It helps build intergenerational communities in Anne Arundel County. Right now, our housing options tend to separate people by age. Young adults are priced out, and seniors are often forced to leave the neighborhoods they love because their homes are too large or too expensive. Cottage home communities offers a different model, one where young people, working adults, and seniors can live together by design. Cottage homes are intentionally smaller and clustered around shared green space. That layout naturally encourages interaction. Seniors watching kids play, young neighbors checking in on older residents, and everyday moments and connections that strengthen safety, belonging, and mental health. This is how community used to work and how many people want it to work again. For seniors, Bill 9225 supports aging in place with dignity, allowing them to downsize without leaving their social networks. And for younger residents and first-time home buyers, it creates attainable homes and stable neighborhoods. Together, that mix blends perfectly with mutual support across generations and not isolation. From a planning perspective, this is smart growth. Cottage communities preserves neighborhoods' character, use land efficiently, and creates housing that fits human scale, not just market scale. And from an equity perspective, they open the door to the opportunity for residents who have historically been locked out by one-size-fits-all zoning. As a former elected official, I know how rare it is to see policy that is forward-thinking and deeply community valued.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Gross.
Good evening, Max Gross. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors. My testimony will be short and sweet. One of the things that we push and we have seen as a solution across the board to the housing crisis is to facilitate a broader range of housing options. This facilitates a broader range of housing options, and I appreciate it being brought to the fore. We support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Yes, sir.
Connecting Together, where I'm serving as the chair now. And we're here tonight to voice our support for 9225 for some of the same reasons that have already been mentioned, but we are particularly concerned with the well-being of moderate and lower income people and wanting to give them a chance to get into the real estate market. And we appreciate the work of Councilman Pete Smith and other members of the County Council who have worked on this for years, and we've enjoyed meeting with Councilman Smith several times in these last 2 years. We find this bill creative and intriguing and exciting, and we're curious to see how much of a positive impact this will have on our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jeff Hill, resident of Severna Park, Maryland. Here just to testify to support the bill. I think there is a need of diverse housing options in the state. We're, depending on who you listen to, 100,000 units short in the state. So this is a one option. Anything that we can do to help provide that. One of the things I would encourage is possibly to add a by right provision in the bill. Because I was at the testimony earlier last week around the project on Ritchie Highway. Again, I want to support that the council does not change that moderate dwelling unit bill in the future. We need to be able to provide options to create more housing stock in the county.
Thank you, sir. So, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on Bill number 9225? Mr. Svensson.
Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. As noted in my written testimony, I absolutely love this imaginative way to better arrange our domestic lives. Unfortunately, though, there are two fundamental problems with this bill. First, it's too broad and represents the latest instance of undermining basic zoning classifications like I highlighted in my earlier testimony. Instead, let's encourage specific, targeted proposals. Then, after public deliberation, let's ensure pilot projects come to fruition by providing funding and technical support. Second, it's another example of half-baked legislation being proposed without sufficient research, public deliberation, and shared information. At the most recent council work session, Councilmember Smith said, "We've done the research and we'll show that. Certainly we'll send that report out." When do you think this research and report should be presented? The bill's already been introduced and could be voted on tonight. Earlier tonight, he said we're working on the where over the next couple of weeks. It's already an introduced bill. This is not a one-off example. It's an all too common reality. Loudoun County is another jurisdiction exploring this idea, and their process for preparing for legislation is worth emulating. I've got lots of examples, links to what they're doing. They make the deliberations of their working groups, agenda packets and meaningful minutes available of those deliberations before things get introduced. And if we could do that, it would be a wonderful world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Mr. Higgins.
Sure. I stumbled across this bill as I was catching up on what was going to be going on.
Even though we know you, Mr. Higgins, could you state your name and address for the
Paul
record?
Higgins, Pasadena, Maryland. And what struck me was immediately was sitting down here during the small area plans and listening to that group out of Jones Station Road talking about having land wanting to build a place for their mother or for a family member and not being able to do that because of the zoning. The gentleman here tonight talked about elderly moving out. Well, sometimes people want to build a in-law cottage or something for them on the property. They have the property. If you're going to look at this, I would encourage you to make this flexible enough that we're not pushing people away from family, that we're giving the families the flexibility to grow on their legacy properties. If we remember, that was the word, legacy properties. And make this flexible enough that it doesn't have to be a large group. Be the government that is inviting and giving people flexibility to keep the families together. I'll close with saying I was fortunate enough to just live in a cottage on a family farm when I got married. And that's how I got started, okay? I can relate to where this bill is coming from. But at the same time, don't make it so rigid that we force that family fiber out. Let the in-laws live with the in-laws or the family. Let the kids grow up and let family look out for one another. It's not up to just the government to look out for everybody, but we all have to look out for one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. All right, the public hearing on Bill number 9225 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9225.
Bill number 9225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, cottage home development.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1, this amendment increases the maximum square footage of floor area to 800 square feet.
Okay, this is from Ms. Fiedler and Ms. Pickard. Who would like to speak first? Ms. Fiedler, you have your light on?
It's pretty self-explanatory and on par with the ADU measure or ADU size.
Okay. Ms. Pickard.
Thank you. So we had similar thoughts. We compromised on the actual square footage. I feel like this moving in this direction is definitely getting more towards a cottage concept, but motion to adopt amendment number 1.
So moved.
All right. So discussion on this amendment. Mr. Smith?
I do want to thank Ms. Pickard and Ms. Fiedler for sort of finding a way to, as we got into deep diving into the size-wise, because I was a little concerned, but they found a way, or found a number that I thought was probably more appropriate for this, partially because here's what I know. When we allow something to be bigger, people will build it at the maximum capacity. That's human nature. So if you require something that's 2,000 square feet, they're going to build 2,000 square feet. And so the larger these are, the more expensive they are. And it goes against what the premise of the bill is, to create an inventory of housing that is less expensive. So I'm grateful that truly grateful that they found a way to compromise to get to where we can still keep it in that small range where square footage won't impact it. But if I may, I think there was some comments made earlier about the where that I really wanted to address, because even though I know this is, and if I may, Madam Chair, it's just because I want to clear up some stuff. We already know in the bill the where. That's basically based on the residential coding that's temporarily in there, R1, 2, 5, 10. So there's going to be further discussions on how it gets to that where, just for clarity purposes. But imagine you have a son or daughter who's 19 years old or 20 years old. They are leaving your house and they want to live on their own. And we really want to create housing opportunities for them for purchase. This bill allows us to create that inventory of housing that is less expensive. My mother never owned anything. She rented her entire life. I remember growing up and us, living in a 900 square feet or 800 square feet apartment with several folks of her siblings, her two sisters with their kids. And we rented that place and we were there for about 6 months. And then we had to leave because, we had like 15 people living in what was not meant for a 15 people apartment. My mom always wanted to buy a house, but she could never afford it. And I remember when $125,000 was like a mansion at the time. This was like in the late 80s. And we were looking at something that said, oh man, that house costs $125,000. I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Fast forward into the 90s and that number started to creep up. And next thing you know, $200,000 or $250,000 was like, if you were in a $250,000 house, you were living the dream, and you were well to do. You go into the 2000s, and now we're in 2025, and the average house here in Anne Arundel County is about $510,000. And so, what used to be possible when it comes to your income, whether you were a teacher, a police officer, or a firefighter, or some sort of normal person who don't make over six figures, when you look to go buy houses, when you look at that $500,000 price tag on a house, you're like, man, this $80,000 or this $60,000 a year job is not going to allow me to get there. But to have home ownership is something we all dream of. And this will allow folks who are older and are looking at, and I know this isn't about, it's speaking about the amendment because it's all, I'm going to wrap around here in a second. But I think it's truly important that we have some grace and humanity in how we're trying to help some of the folks that live in this county, who work in this county. And this truly is a bill that's going to create an inventory of housing that is like in the 200 or less range. And that right there is affordable. Could you imagine having a $1,200 mortgage? Could any of you imagine that? In today's market, it's really hard to imagine that because most mortgages around here are in the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and up range. And so unless you are married with a dual income and a high income job, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. But could you imagine that for a second? And that's the real focus of this legislation, is to create a market range of housing where people who are making that can still own something, but yet still live their life and have a quality life. And so I'm just grateful that they were flexible enough, and there will be further discussions on the where within the R's as it's come up, because there are varying degrees of where we think this should exist amongst these council members that are up here. I'm just grateful that they had the flexibility to work with me on it, and I'm truly grateful for that. But thank you, Madam Chair, for the flexibility to communicate on this.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay. Ms. Pickard.
I'm ready to vote on this amendment, but once we wrap up this amendment, I do have additional questions about the bill.
Got it. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Okay, and I do think there's some additional questions. Ms. Pickard?
Thank you. I wanted to look at section 17-7-1302, the general development principles. And Ms. Karpowitz, you may be most helpful in this area. I know we've been talking about this bill as a way to increase home ownership of smaller dwelling types. But when we get into, I'm looking at page 3, lines really 1 through 21 here. It says this bill restricts the occupancy to eligible households for at least 10 years for home ownership units and at least 20 years for rental units. And there's also a provision about lease to purchase rental units. But then when we go down to line 6, we're qualifying the occupant at 80% of the median income adjusted for household, blah, 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 blah. But the homeowner, so does the homeowner is income, the homeowner has to be income eligible, but it doesn't necessarily say they can't then turn around. I know it can't be a short-term rental, but it doesn't say that they can't turn around and rent it to someone. It seems like they could turn around and rent it, and then as long as the renter was 80 at that income eligibility. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's how, that's how I interpret this too.
Maybe that's the intent, that someone could purchase multiple of these and then turn them into rental property?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I had thoughts on this, at an appropriate time, if you'd be interested.
You had?
Okay. Just on your question.
Oh. Well, just under section 4, it says that the original buyer of a home ownership unit transfers title to that unit within 5 years. It talks about making sure that there's an income certification. So I was thinking the intent there was on the home ownership transfer, but I think you're right. It's silent on the issue of whether or not an owner could rent it out. But Kelly, I don't know if you.
Kelly Kenny, supervising county attorney. Yes, I do think it is a little bit unclear about the subsequent rental. I think subsection 2 might cover that because it does indicate who has to occupy the household. So if the owner did rent it out in turn, they would still be restricted to only allowing that to be occupied by households that meet that condition there. But there's no specific restriction on the subsequent rental.
And so the bill as drafted restricts who can occupy it, but it doesn't restrict what then the rent would be.
Right.
Okay. This is confusing. The way this is drafted is just confusing with the end goal of what I think the end goal of the bill is. The bill doesn't set a price point for the rent or the unit itself. It just restricts the median income of the occupant. I have a different question associated with that, but I'll let others take a turn.
Ms. Rodby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only wanted to weigh in because this was a topic when I was drafting the accessory dwelling unit bill. This was a topic that came up for similar reasons, because the idea of the accessory dwelling unit is, in theory, because it's smaller, you would have a lower, if you were going to rent it out, it would be a lower rent. But I think to your point about an owner then turning around and renting the unit, the owner, or trying to buy up multiples, if the owner was going to purchase more than one unit, they would still have to qualify. And based on their income, it's hard to imagine an owner are we at 80%? Sorry. Thank you, AMI. If we're at 80% AMI, it's hard to imagine that they would qualify to purchase more than one such unit. And so if they're turning around and renting it, they're still building up that generational wealth because they're going to turn around and pay the mortgage. That's their own equity. So even if they're renting it out, now I do, I think the point about, should there be a limit on the rental rate, but I don't know, that's a separate question, but I just wanted to bring that up because that was a topic that we came across when we were looking at the accessory dwelling unit bill.
Mr. Wilkie.
What in here prevents me, private owner, whoever, from going and purchasing a 10 or a 15 acre in R1 piece of property and saying, I'm going to build one of these communities, and then through a series of straw man transactions, kind of transferring this to other LLCs that own each one of these that's under the AMI requirement, because you can do that, and then me owning 10, 15, 20, 30 of these, however many you can get in that density, in these different LLCs, and renting each one of them out to people who meet the under 80% AMI threshold.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as stated earlier, the idea is that as long as the occupants meet that 80% AMI, and as the potential administrator, we would be reviewing those income certifications to ensure that the renters are meeting that.
But you're only looking at the renters, not the owners. So
Right.
I could continue to be the owner. And with respect to financing, I could be a cash financer. I mean, I could come in with cash and I could do everything, and I wouldn't need anybody to be able to back that up.
Cash buyer?
You're
I mean,
an
is
80
that?
You're an 80% AMI if you're a renter.
No.
The owner could
And-
own it,
and
and they don't
purchase.
have to be an AMI.
And
And purchaser.
Where does it say that?
The original buyer of the interest unit transfer, well, you got to go up probably.
Paragraph 3.
Oh, yeah, so the initial transfer of a homeowner unit to the original buyer of that unit shall be accompanied by certification from Anne Arundel County or its designee that the buyer's household income does not exceed the maximum allowed for that unit. So that's the initial
I got you.
purchaser of that.
You think that people can't find a way around that?
I mean, I think it's going to, there are business owners who try to find loopholes with everything, and
Absolutely.
I
Especially when
think
there's money to be
when
made.
the county is going to be sort of the initial administrators of monitoring who purchase these homes, that's certainly my intent. I know this bill will be amended here in the coming weeks. I think we'll do our due diligence to make sure that whoever's buying it makes $75,000 a year. It's going to be really, I don't know too many 75,000 earners that are as creative as you are when it comes to, and has a stock or a bank account full of cash to be able to create all these LLCs. And that's pretty, the first time I've heard it though. I'm glad.
Just you wait. Just you wait.
Okay.
Somebody will find a way. I mean, that's my problem with this is I can see already ways around the prohibitions in here. Can ACDS stop the sale of this property? Like, do you have a legal right to stop the sale of this property? Or if I submit a certification to you and I say, look, this LLC is going to own it, I don't see anything in here that prohibits an LLC from owning it, so an entity could own it.
Well, my thought is, in terms of how we've done it with the workforce housing program, is we draft policies that govern how we review the certifications.
Mhm.
But if the council wanted to really, strengthen this and put a provision that explicitly prohibited that or explicitly prohibited, owners from then subsequently leasing the property or renting the property out, that would be a way to strengthen it.
All right.
And just also, we mentioned during the work session about looking at how we set the ceiling for the affordability for the sales price. That's something that we can do in policy, but it could also be something that would be added here.
Thank you.
Ms. Pickard.
I guess because Mr. Smith has been referring to this as home ownership options, I was just this section is just confusing to me. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm just trying to understand the intent of, because there are communities, the tiny home or cottage communities that don't have income eligibility or price. They're just priced out on the market, and they're just proposing. I know we found with some of our housing policies that we've adopted over the last couple terms that having that 80% or a finite maximum area median income can be limiting to who can, one, qualify for a mortgage and therefore qualify to be an occupant in one of these homes. So we had made a range up from 100 to 120 or 80 to 120 so that we created more of a pool of people. So I wasn't sure if ACDS had any thoughts on that, if this 80% area median income is the right number.
Well, I think 80% is the right number for the cap on this. For MPDU, as you know, that cap is 100% AMI in terms of the eligible homeowner. So I do think 80% is the right cap to give that lower income workforce the opportunity to purchase these before they're gobbled up. But I do think that a band would be appropriate so that you were setting the actual affordability at a lower AMI. And that's, again, something that we've done within policy for the workforce housing, but it's also something that you could do in code where you set, the affordability price at a lower level, say 60% AMI.
So is that your intent as the agency that would be qualified?
It's not written in the code yet as far as ACDS.
Right. Yeah, I'm just.
What? It's not in the bill that you would be administering the.
Well, it says Anne Arundel County or its designee, so I think that's a fair assumption.
Oh.
That we could be the administrator.
Okay. Well. Okay.
So yes, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yes.
So whether it's the county or your agency,
right?
Is that your intent to then create regulation that would
yes,
set a?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
No, I was going to, if and this is for all the council, if there are things to help clarify some of the language in here, please propose those as amendments, or send me an email certainly so we can talk, because I'm definitely open to expanding this so it makes sense to each of us on this council. So would definitely encourage you to, if there's something in there you think needs to be fixed.
Okay.
Yep, to fix the bill, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it's just confusing. I was looking more to the experts at the table about drafting legislation than trying to do it myself.
But you were asking about intent. Since we're the ones that establish intent as the legislators, I wanted to tell you what my intent. My intent is to have housing where folks don't have to spend 80% of their paycheck on housing. That's my intent.
Oh, of course.
And
I
understand
that, but okay, I'm not looking to get into an argument about it.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
trying to
figure out how to make
how we make this work so that the language in the bill reflects the intent of the sponsor.
Ms. Rodbian.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question of Ms. Karpowitz, because I just looking very briefly to the city of Annapolis, because their MPDU program has been in place for a little bit longer, and you guys manage the city's MPDU program correctly? I mean, or at least the applications and the certifications?
We did in the past. We haven't for several years now.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, I guess. Well, and I guess then one question that I have, or maybe I have a couple questions, is did you ever have the situation where an LLC was trying to purchase an MPDU, and how would that even, I mean, would it maybe be worthwhile to place an explicit limitation saying an LLC could not purchase an MPDU? Because I don't know how can an LLC have, I don't know. I mean, of course, an LLC can have an income, but that's not what we mean when we talk about income. So I'm curious if you've had to respond to that situation, and if you do, how so?
So I I do not recall having that situation when we administered the city's program prior to them getting full-time staff who could do that directly. But now with our policies and procedures for the county's MPDU program, you have to be a first-time home buyer, and there are specific definitions around that I think would prohibit an LLC from coming in, purchasing the home, and then renting it out. Renting it out is that's not part of the program, and so we have the rental units and we have the home buyer units, and their processes for getting qualified for that.
If a genuinely qualified home buyer purchases, who genuinely legitimate, no funny business, meets the income qualifications, could they then turn around and rent the property out? And if so, what would actually be the problem with that? As long as the occupant, because they're still, if it's someone who's, I guess we're just say $75,000 a year, someone who's earning $75,000 a year, well, first, one, they got to figure out another place to live. Mm-hmm. So they're going to, I don't know, maybe they can purchase it, but then not live in it and, collect the rent, and the rent covers the mortgage. That just doesn't seem like a very practical thing unless there's, a situation where they had to move suddenly. They all of a sudden got a job in another state. And so, the most practical way of dealing with this property that they owned and they purchased with these limitations would be to rent it out. So I kind of worry a little bit about limiting the owners. If they're truly the owner, in general, they should have the same property rights as all other property owners have, and without limitations, because that actually, I feel like that could actually hamper their ability to sort of create the generational wealth that goes with owning a property. So now I've talked, but could respond in any way.
Right, and I apologize. I don't have the MPDU bill in front of me, and I believe it's silent on that, and so that could be something that we develop in our resale. We're in the process now. We're probably 18 months away from an actual unit being built for this program, so we really prioritized the design standards. We prioritized the waiting list policies and the house price setting policies, but that could be something that we look at, because I agree, things happen, life happens, you could get transferred, and you may want to retain that. So that's certainly something we can look at in terms of the resale and occupancy standards moving forward.
So I have a question in the same vein. So with MPDUs, we have a process for the rental units that are MPDUs, the affordable units that are in there, that y'all check the income on those, and if periodically, and if the people exceed the income, then they have to move. So I assume that the same type would need to be done for these if they were rentals. But if they're home ownership, we can't really check and see if their income goes up. We're not going to make them sell their home and move out. But it could be their income goes up after they buy it. They qualify, their income moves up, they move to another property, and they're renting it out. How would y'all check that the renters that they're renting to, because they're privately renting, are meeting that 80% threshold?
Yeah, that would be kind of an administrative burden to some degree. And so there is an administrative cost to making sure that that's enforced. We do have a staff who goes out and monitors our rental units to make sure that they're meeting whatever the programmatic requirements are, whether it be workforce housing, whether it be the low-income housing tax credit, or the affordable housing trust funded. We do the monitoring, and so we would probably have some provision where the owner had to notify us. But this is, again, these are very detailed policies that need to be developed, and you noticed in the fiscal note that there is a cost to doing that, and that would have to be figured out as we go along and through the policy making process.
Okay, and this is a question now for, I think this would fall under zoning, I'm not sure which department this falls under. So when we're looking at the different fees and things that come with this, so a cottage home is classified in the code, for instance, when we're calculating EDUs, it would be considered a single-family home, correct? Or would it?
This is Chris Murphy, DPW. I assume it would be a single-family home for now, but I'm sure we would look at the flow factor. We might develop a new flow factor for it. I would seem to think it would be on the lower side. It would not be.
I would too. I mean, I wouldn't think it would have the same flow factor as a single-family home, but right now we don't have anything in the code for this size home really to calculate that. And the EDU, water and sewer things for a single-family home is significant. That's a large burden right off the bat that you're looking at, what, $40,000 probably?
It's $11,340 for water, $11,340 for sewer.
So
22,000.
22,000 right off the bat
Change.
just for water and sewer for this. And so that may be something that we've got to look at, how they're classified. Are they classified more? Perhaps they're more like, even though they're not multifamily units, they're more like a multifamily unit. But
Yeah, I could see something like that.
okay, because that's trying to make them affordable. That's a significant cost right up front. That's before we even build anything. Those are the water and sewer charges to have there. Okay, thank you. All right, any other, Ms. Pickard?
So just to go back to that section, so it does appear that you could create a cottage community that is rental or lease to purchase.
Yes, subsection 1 specifically indicates that it's 20 years for a rental unit. So that does lead me to believe that you can have rental units, of course.
Okay.
I think it's what we've talked about. I think we're lacking some provisions on how to monitor the rental units. There's more provisions on the home ownership.
I mean, to me, that opens up opportunities, especially for seniors, to have affordable living as they downsize, and want it to be rental instead of ownership. But I'm just trying to understand the way this is drafted. I know this bill is coming back, so I'll hold off any other questions about where we're permitting these to be built. But those are my questions for now.
Mr. Smith.
I did want to just provide a little bit more clarity on kind of where the intent was of this. The goal was for this bill was to create initially purchasable units where either young people or old people could buy something that was affordable. And then at some point, let's say we're a young person and you got married and next thing you know you want a family, these aren't necessarily conducive to a family. So a year or 2 or 5 years later, they wanted to go to a bigger sort of step. Maybe that's a 3-bedroom house that they can then move into, but they didn't want to necessarily sell this. So the conversation with the county attorney at the time was, well, how do we still allow them to be able to rent it out? And what does that provision look like? So, because we still wanted them to create generational wealth, we didn't necessarily want them to sell it, because if life took them to the next stage, this would be an asset that they could still have. And so I think the language around the renting centered on as they progress through the life and they accomplish more things, and then they were able to get to a bigger house. And so it has always been these were to be purchased first by someone who was in that income range, and then as life sort of adjusted them, or they can then move out and then rent it out. That has always been the intent behind this bill, to allow those home ownership opportunities for folks on the lower spectrum of the income range. So that was the intent. That is the intent behind what this bill was about. So in case there's any confusion, we were 100% trying to make sure they were purchased first, and then you get elevated, and then you rent it out. And what are the controls for when you're renting it out so that you don't get short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and these being used for Airbnb, or some developer buying them up and trying to rent them out. So that was the intent. I'm not a drafter, and so I use the wisdom of the attorney that sort of helped put this together, and that's, I think, their interpretation of how the language should have been drafted. But I am certainly open to modifying what that looks like to make sure it's more clear. We want to provide home ownership for people who are on the lower spectrum of the income scale. That's exactly what this is for. And as they grow through their life, They can then maintain this as an asset and then rent it out. Well, then what happens when they rent it out? Well, if it's going to be in the next 5 years, make sure that next person is still within that range so that it doesn't become a developer just buying it up or some wealthy person buying it up or an LLC buying it up to use it as an income sort of thing. We want to create opportunities for individuals to be successful. So that was the intent.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. So bill number 9225 as amended will be heard on January 5th, 2026. Bill number 93, Madam Secretary, please read the title, Bill number 9325.
Bill number 9325, an ordinance concerning zoning, uses, dog daycare, and training facilities.
And this is Ms. Pickard and Ms. Fiedler's bill. Ms. Fiedler, who wants to speak first? Who wants to speak on this? She's giving it to you, Ms. Fiedler.
All righty. It's a pretty simple bill. It allows for the use of dog training facilities in commercial and small business areas. There is an amendment that we will offer at the appropriate time for RA and RLD that is already addressed in that section of the code is already addressed.
Okay. Ms. Pickard, do you want to add anything? Okay. All right. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer, and Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney. We support this bill with the amendment. We discussed it at the work session. That addresses our one minor concern, if you could even call it that, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? We will now open the public hearing on Bill 9325. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received 2 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. Did we receive any? Oh, I just said that. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9325. I already said that. I'm losing my place. So, is there anyone here in the audience who would like to come speak on Bill 9325? Please state your name and address when you arrive. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Hager had signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 9225? Mr. Hager, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Phil Hager, Hager Land Use, representing my client, Leash Free Living. And she apologizes she's not able to join us this evening. She's on her way back from a competition in Florida. She had to rent a U-Haul to haul back all the awards that they're bringing back. So there was a little delay for that. I'd like to thank the 3 co-sponsors, Ms. Fiedler, Ms. Pickard, and Mr. Smith. As our living conditions and our housing choices in urban and suburban Maryland have changed, it has impacted not only our lives, but those of our pets. As more people are living in smaller spaces and more compact developments, it's increased the opportunities for conflict, increasing the importance of effective training for our dogs and of equal importance for their owners. This legislation recognizes the changing circumstances in which we find ourselves today and seeks to bring the code into alignment with these evolving trends. Clearly, we have a greater need for training services, and this translates into a need for more training services, and those sites need to be geographically dispersed, and they need to be situated in locations that are convenient for where we live, work, and play. By making this a principal permitted use in the commercial zones as well as the 2 lower intensity industrial zones, we are accomplishing this objective. The bill also recognizes that there's a difference between kennels, veterinary clinics, and this particular type of use. It needs to be treated separately, and this bill seeks to do that. I encourage your support. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hager. So the public hearing on Bill number 9325 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9325.
Bill number 9325, an ordinance concerning zoning, uses, dog daycare, and training facilities.
All right. There is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment removes permitting dog daycare and training facilities in RA and RLD residential zoning districts.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In current code, this is a special exception, and given that the constituent that I helped with that legislation did have some neighbors that wanted to ensure that they could provide feedback during a special exception process, think it's important that it remains special exception. So with that, I move the amendment forward.
Rodbian, second.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
We support.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodbian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
All right. Bill number 9325 as amended will be heard on January 5th, 2026. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 3325.
Resolution number 3325, resolution approving the determination as surplus in the terms of private disposition of certain county-owned property on Dorsey Road in Glen Burnie, Maryland.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, Christine Eder, our Senior Assistant County Attorney, Chris Daniels, our Real Estate Manager, and Marnie Watson, our Program Specialist from Real Estate. You may remember we discussed this resolution at a work session, I believe in November, and we held it at the hearing in order to meet the advertising requirements of the code. But basically, this is a parcel located in Glen Burnie. It's an unimproved lot that's about 2,500 square feet. It was platted in the 1920s for a row home community that never got built. The county acquired it in 1937 by tax sale, and at some point, ownership got muddied, and prior owners believed that they owned it and paid taxes on it for a number of years. It was only when the property was being looked at for resale that it was that an extensive title search discovered that the county had acquired the property in 1937. So this property, this resolution surpluses the property to the owners who have been paying taxes on it for $0. I don't even know if the lot is buildable. It's so small. But we're happy to answer any questions, and we would urge a favorable vote.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually tried to find this on our maps. Is it one of the very narrow, slender lots? How long were they paying taxes, out of curiosity?
Going back, the current owners, it's probably been about 20 years. But there's just been a ton of quitclaim deeds, estate deeds, things that did not require title searches. So it was just assumed that that first outgoing deed, which probably had a clerical error or something, was missed, just never popped up until they had a proper 100-year search done.
Thank you for the work.
Interesting. All right, we will now open the public. Oh, Mr. Folke.
Thank you. I just am curious. It's worth 50 grand. Is that right?
That's what the appraisal came back
Okay. I mean, I thought we said this is like a tiny little sliver of nothing. So. Well, I got it. But understood, and kind of, I get that. But my point is, I fully understand the problem of these folks have been paying taxes on this piece of property for years. That's an issue, right? They shouldn't have been doing that. We've probably collected tax revenue we're not entitled to. There's likely a lawsuit. They're probably entitled to sue us. I don't know how far back they can go. I assume there's probably some sort of statute that limits how far back they can go, some limitation. But on the flip side of it, we're giving away a piece of property that we own for $0, and we're doing it, I guess, because we think that's just the right thing to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
The county has never known that they owned it or wanted to use it, and so we've never assumed that we own it. So
There's never been an action to quiet title. There's never been an action for adverse possession. Like, the county has never been divested of its ownership, right? No one's ever gone affirmatively to try to take this back. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't. You would have mentioned to us if there was some sort of action that had been a legal action to try to do something with respect to title on this.
Christine Nieder, Office of Law, not that we're aware of.
Okay.
And as we said, this really was never brought to our attention until they went to sell the 2 adjacent lots. I believe it was 5 and 6. They tried to do 4, 5, and 6. And that's when the title search found that when they went all the way back, that lot 4 was never properly conveyed out. And then they said, well, perhaps it was a clerical error. And we said, well, we don't have any evidence that it was a clerical error. And it's important that we follow what's in the code. And that's what brought us here.
It's 100 years ago. Who could speak to the clerical error?
Well, exactly.
I mean,
That's why I said there's
yeah.
no evidence. So that's why we made sure to come here.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Rabian?
I just was going to comment that I like this because it just seems like a fair thing to do, like a fair resolution. It may not be the perfect resolution, but it seems like the perfect resolution is probably not determinable. So this is I think a fair resolution, a simple resolution that's not going to take a lot of administrative burden or end up in court. Just let it go.
How large is this parcel again? How many acres or point acres? It's what?
0.058 acres, so 500, a little under 600ths of an acre.
600th of an acre. But what do you, okay. We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 3325. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 3325? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on resolution number 3325 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 3325.
Resolution number 3325, resolution approving the determination as surplus in the terms of a private disposition of certain county-owned property on Dorsey Road in Glen Burnie, Maryland.
Okay, any further discussion? Ms. Fiedler?
Sorry, I'm trying to do math in my head. How long did you say that we think that they were paying the property tax? 20 years?
Belonged to them ever since that outgoing tax sale.
Okay.
So I believe it was roughly 20 years that this particular group, and that even changed because of people passing away. So we had many estate deeds that were just, where one owner, like at some point, this one lot became part of a trustee owned it. There were a lot of errors done throughout the chain of title. But I do believe the basic McLaughlin family was roughly around 20 years.
Okay.
All right.
Question?
Yes.
Thank you. What is the applicable statute in terms of if someone believes they've wrongfully paid county taxes, how long do they have to identify that? Do you know? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just thinking this out loud.
Fortunately, I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine it's that long.
Well,
Miss
here
Kenny's
comes Miss
coming.
Kenny.
Here
She
we go.
knows. Here she comes.
This is phone a friend. Yes.
The applicable, it's in the local government article, it's 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
Only
All right.
3 years.
So our max exposure is 3 years
Right.
multiplied by the property tax amount. Do we know what amount has been paid in property tax? I'm just thinking. Go ahead.
I would assume it's less than 50,000, but again,
Yeah.
fairness. Like they've been paying it for 20. Just because we're, only on the hook for 3 years doesn't mean that doesn't negate the other 17 or all the
100
years
years
that had been
before.
paid before that the county was unjustly enriched.
Brain is working.
I'm just, in a shock to no one, you and I may see this slightly differently, right? Yeah, right. Because I'm looking at it going, this is worth 50 grand. The value per acre is extensive. And then if you're looking at this piece of property and you're saying, okay, we're going to give this away for $0, but our max exposure is maybe a couple $1,000s at most, like, wouldn't fairness be to sort of split the difference and say, look, we'll dispose of this, but it'll be for some sort of fair market value as opposed to $0? Like, that's where I'm looking at it. It's to a certain degree, if you think you own the property and you didn't do a good title search on it and somebody's been wrong, there may be actions against the title companies for whether you think that they did a bad job in title search.
I just feel like the solution avoids all that unnecessary expenditure of resources to get to a solution that might not even be clear in the end anyway. I feel like this is a situation where we take Elsa's advice and let it go.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but I think the problem is we're letting it go the taxpayers are on the bill for letting it go, right? The taxpayers are the one who are taking a $50,000 bath, and we're avoiding any private individual having to spend their money to deal with an action that probably should have been dealt with privately to begin with. So I think that's where like the equity or the fairness of it for me is coming in, is going from the taxpayer standpoint, from the citizen standpoint. These are the people who are technically quote unquote losing, the body politic.
But they're not, because we've also, the county has received all that additional revenue that they shouldn't have.
For 100 years.
For 100 years. So in a way, I still think.
Do you pay property taxes on a property that you don't own? Would you check that out?
If
I would.
You know what? I actually assume that the title company, why are we talking about my house?
Right. I'm just saying, if
I'm
you
pretty
own
sure
so much property that you're paying property tax on a property and you don't know whether you own it or not, that might be a different type of problem.
What's the zoning on this property?
Oh, man.
W2, and all the properties around it are W2 as well?
Probably.
So the 3 parcels that this owner were looking to sell when they found this out, they're all adjacent to each other and they're all W2. And so probably interconnected, and this little bit would be difficult to sell without the other 2. It really needs to be part and parcel of the whole. So, Ms. Fiedler.
How hard would it be to get a record of tax payment under current ownership?
That shouldn't be, I think that's all online, so it could be pulled up.
Because I would actually be interested in knowing, under the current family name, how much they paid in taxes over the last 20 years. Because I think that may settle the disagreement or maybe help some folks along, including myself. Is there any urgency to passing this tonight? Could we do a motion to hold and get that information?
I need to check and see when it expires. I don't think there's an issue. I would just point out, though, that now that we know that we own it, it means we're liable for it, which means we're liable for maintenance on it. We're liable if someone gets injured on it. So our exposure is not just 3 years of taxes.
Okay.
To have that.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Well, I'll just put a motion on the floor to hold the resolution until our January 5th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay, and this is why people hate lawyers.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Nay.
Mr. Volkey.
They hate them until they need a good one. Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Nay.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. The motion to hold resolution number 3325 until January 5th has passed.
All right, we will hear the resolution again on January 5th, 2026. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 3625.
Resolution number 3625, resolution proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to create an office known as the Office of Multicultural Affairs and an officer known as the Multicultural Affairs Officer as part of the executive branch.
Mr. Smith, this is your resolution.
Simple resolution, just trying to codify, if given the opportunity to present this to the voters. This bill does, this resolution does a couple of things. One is just adds this as a question on the upcoming election that is next year. 2, it doesn't add anything to any budgetary sort of constraints, because we're just asking the citizenry on whether or not this should be, we can open up our charter to add this as an office in there. There's a reason why. For the last 20 years, we have performed this function, at least the last 20 years, because even under John Leopold, this function was being produced by an individual within his administration. The same with Laura Newman when she became county exec. The same with Steve Shue when he became county exec. That same function was being produced and performed. The current county exec, Stuart Pittman, made it an office. And so I've always felt like the function is something that we do need to perform, but yet it should be in our county charter so that it is performed consistently throughout the entirety of the existence of our county. And so that's part of the reason we wanted to open this. I will ask for a motion to hold this resolution. I don't know if whenever that appropriate time is because there are a couple of groups who I have promised to sit down with and have a discussion with on potentially the impacts of this. I did send an email earlier indicating that, and at that moment would ask the council for favorable consideration to at least hold this to the date that we specify once we get to that point.
All right, administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Obviously, we support the work of the Office of Multicultural Affairs. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're supportive of a motion to hold as well.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, we will now.
I have a question, sorry.
Oh, yes, Mr.
Do we have a fiscal note on this bill? We know what it's going to cost? I see the fiscal note, okay. $300,000? Oh, because it already exists, it's the 300 that already is being spent. I got you. Okay. I guess what I'm coming back to is we did this with the Human Relations Commission, right? It started off as a creature of executive order. That was how it had always existed, was every county executive would create the Human Relations Commission. And if a prior executive had created it and a new executive wanted to reconstitute it, they would do that.
Right.
And then this council, when I was in my first term, created it in the code is the first thing that we did. And we said it becomes something that lives in our code because we didn't want that to be at the whim of a county exec, whether they do an executive order or not.
Yep.
And then the next step was to put it into the charter because we said, well, we've got to put this in the charter because if we don't, then, if you had a different county council, they could get rid of this. So now it lives in the charter. And now I don't remember where I saw it. I was just looking for it. I couldn't find it quickly, but there are requests for staff. There are additional expenditures that are associated with the Human Relations Commission. They have a significant number of recommendations that they sent us back on October 9th of different things that they think from a programmatic standpoint we need to be implementing. And so what happens with these things is when you put them into the charter and when you make them a real sort of living, breathing part of the county government, they start to live and breathe. And now all of a sudden they start doing lots more things because they have to find a way to justify that. That's the concern that I have with this. It's not that this isn't a good idea and that it shouldn't exist by way of executive order or that county executives shouldn't have this, but there's a difference between doing it the way we've always done it and doing it in the way that we're talking about doing it, which when we do that, now comes with all of the sort of additional pieces that we need to add to say, well, we've got to really make this a robust part of our county, which then comes with spending requirements and almost making sure that we're justifying its existence, which is what's happened in a lot of ways with other things that we've done this for. So that's a big concern that I have with this, and obviously I think the fiscal note understates what the cost is going to be because the fiscal note starts off and says there won't be any additional costs, but I've been told that one before. So that's just where I'll leave my thoughts on this.
Madam Chair, if I may
Yes,
respond to that, and I'm great. I'm glad the councilman is very astute on the history of different offices coming and asking us for different requests. That is the nature of government, but that's also why we have a legislative branch to say, yeah, no, that's not what we're going to prioritize. And you yourself have voted on things when people have asked to grow something. You said, no, that's not what I'm going to put my vote in, and those things did not happen. And so even if this didn't exist, the county exec can still come down and ask for a request to extend something in that office or some function that they're going to be performing. So it's not, that part is left up to us as legislators to make sure we're allocating resources appropriately. But nonetheless, this doesn't come with any sort of financial, outside of what's already there being executed. Your vote, if you were to support this, doesn't do anything but allow us to open that book, the charter, and add this within the charter so it stays there. It's whoever sits in your seat 20 years from now, if they decide to make it bigger or make it smaller, I think those legislators would be listening to their constituents to determine whether or not that's a good policy or not. But whether or not this function should exist, we've had at least four county executives that said yes, this definitely should exist, which is why they resourced it and had at least a person doing it over the time when they were in office. And so I understand the concern about growth, but I think that's the case with anything in government. but it's incumbent upon legislators to make sure we keep things within perspective when it comes to that. So appreciate that.
All right, we will now open, Ms. Rodbian.
I was just going to comment that I'm not sure it's fair to say that the growth has happened to justify the existence of offices that we've created. I think they were very intentional policy choices, and I think a future county executive who's going to be over, the umbrella over this will make whatever policy choice they feel is the appropriate one. For some, that might be growth. For others, that might be, it's good right where it is. For example, if you were to be the county executive and I'm just suggesting that based on what you're saying, though, some of the growth that we have seen, a different person's judgment would not have that growth. And so I think that just, is in a way, it turns it back over to the voters, more broadly.
Mr. Folk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I got you. But, and so I guess then this leads sort of to the follow-up question, which is beyond the growth question. Has there been some threat from any candidate for county executive, or have you heard from anyone that they are going to be getting rid of this? You've said 4 county executives have found this to be a priority. 4 county executives, both Republican and Democratic administrations, have said, we need this position. 4 county administrations, all of which are, I could argue, very different from one another, have found this is an important thing. So what is the impetus for then saying this has to live in the charter? If those 4 administrations have each prioritized it, and if everybody running for county executive right now that we know of, even though we're not at the filing deadline, if you're not hearing anybody rumbling and saying, we got to get rid of this because they're all like, this makes sense, what's the impetus for this?
I think the last couple of years has certainly taught me that if it's not in the Constitution, if it's not in the state charter or the state constitution, it can be taken away. We've seen leaders from the federal on down across this country remove things that were not in their state constitution. And so for me, this is something I think is important enough to make sure that function, we never have to worry about a personality getting in there, taking it away. And so I've seen women's rights being stripped away and to some degree. We obviously on different political side of the aisles with some of the leadership that exists today at the federal level. And so while this doesn't equate to that to some extent, I think this function is important enough to make sure those sub-communities feel like there is someone who's going to be there speaking on their behalf and articulating the importance of their community to the collective county's effort. And so for me, it's about if it ain't on paper, it doesn't exist. And so I'm trying to make sure people know this is important enough to put on the paper.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Smith, Vice Chair Smith, just stated the argument, and I was going to make, but in a slightly different way. Sort of like if you had 4 county executives who all said, or 4 presidents in a row who said, well, we all really strongly believe in free speech. Well, we don't need to put it in the Constitution because we all already agree on it. I mean, would we say that? I mean, if they've all agreed that it's really important, doesn't that actually point in the exact opposite direction? We all really agree, so let's put it on paper.
Ms. Pickard.
Mr. Hunt, I hate to put you on the spot, but what county departments are in the charter currently?
I don't have the county charter in front of me, but I think it's all the external facing departments. So you think off the top of your head, INP, DPW, police, fire, rec and parks, and then I think you have the operating offices as well.
It has on the Section 506 for the offices. It's stated on there. If I may, Madam Chair.
I see.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I'm just curious, of the 35 or 40 departments we have, we need them all in the charter?
I don't think they all are in the charter.
I know they're not all in the charter. Clearly, it says in Section 506 that they're not. So it's just we're pulling out one, which is of a very small function that reports up to the CAO. I'm just curious, like the Office of Equity and Human Rights isn't in the charter. Office of Animal Care and Control is not in the charter. So I'm just pointing that out. I don't have a strong opinion either way about this charter amendment, but it's just interesting.
All right. Now I'm going to open the public hearing on resolution number 3625. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received 2 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We did not, we do have some individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have Michelle Peters, Asan Powell, B. Griffin, and Stephen Waddy. Are any of them still in the audience tonight? Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on resolution number 3625? Okay, so we are going to hold the public hearing. And Mr. Smith, you have a motion?
Yes, I want to make a motion to hold and keep open the public,
Hold the public hearing open.
hold the public hearing open and to move this to January 20th, 2026.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to hold the public hearing open and hold the vote on resolution number 3625 until January 20th, 2026.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold the public hearing open and hold the vote on resolution 3625 until January 20th, 2026 has passed.
Okay. Is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time? Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The county council is adjourned to the public until Monday, January 5th, 2026 at 7 p.m. for our legislative work session here in our chambers. Happy holiday season to everyone. Stay warm. We'll see you next year. I know. Next